Caregivers, have you ever felt like nothing is going right? Well, cheer up and welcome to Dave, the Caregiver's Caregiver radio program, where you'll learn how to avoid that dreaded thing called caregiver burnout and how to survive the grieving process. Join Dave and his guests now as they share practice tips and tools that you can start using immediately to help get you through this day. Now, here's your caregiver host, Dave Nassani.
From Los Angeles and New York City, a big LA welcome and Big Apple welcome to all my listeners out there in Radio Land. I am Dave, the Caregiver's Caregiver at caregiverdave.com, along with my lovely co-host, Adrienne Gruberg at the Caregiver Space. Say hello, Adrienne.
Hello. Shotzi's saying hello for me.
Shotzi, what a great name. I bet you stole that from Happy Days, right?
Yeah, no, I stole that from Blazing Saddles, actually.
Oh. Well, anyway, we're coming to you live and on demand 24/7 on 16 global and audio and video platforms, including, and I'll just tell you, iTunes, YouTube, Spreaker, Podcast, SoundCloud, Vimeo, Stitcher, Blog Talk Radio, Mixcloud, Listen Notes, Blueberry, Player FM, Podcast.com, VIP Internet Radio, Facebook Live, HealthyLife.net, and CaregiverDave.com. And we're proud to be voted number 2 podcast out of, let me just take a breath there, out of the top 6 podcasts by Caring.com. And we have an exciting show planned for you today, don't we, Adrienne? She always has to agree with me. Adrienne.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, you took too long to answer.
Because I was muted because the dog was barking.
Oh, well, that's very considerate of you. Anyway, our guest today is an amazing guest, and she wrote a book. She's an author, and I predict a best-selling author. And it's all about, first of all, I'll give you her name, Angie Cyr, like a seer of good things. And tell us the name of your book, Angie.
The name of my book is My Time with Abuela, Coping with Caregiving Through Humor.
Before we get started, I want to thank last week's guest, which I think was, we didn't do anything last week because we were just so overwhelmed. I was overwhelmed with traveling. But the week before, I think it was Adrienne and I just talking
right.
stuff. And so you can watch or listen to all of our interviews on our membership website, caregiverdave.com, or any of our other 16 global and video national platforms that I mentioned earlier, and iTunes, YouTube, and all those other places. All right, enough of that. Our guest today, Angie Cyr, is with us. And Angie, we've got some questions for you. But before I ask you any of those questions, I want to ask you a different question. And this is just so we can get to know you. Why on earth was Angie Cyr born, and what does she hope to give the world by her presence here?
Wow, that's a deep question.
It is. We start out deep here.
Well, I think I was born to help people change and transform. That was like, because I'm kind of like a butterfly. I think of myself as a butterfly, and my mom loved butterflies. So that's what I think. But definitely to help other people, and I didn't know that until I started becoming a caregiver. Up until then, I had no idea what I'm supposed to be doing. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that kind of changed my life.
Gee, imagine that. I know it changed my life. Adrienne, did it change your life becoming a caregiver?
In increments, yes.
In increments.
Yes, because there were times in my life I cared for my grandmother, and then my father, and then, then when marriage came along, incidents.
And a lot of people became caregivers when they were between the ages of 8 and 18. There's actually 6 million of them.
Wow.
And, the labor code doesn't apply to them on lunch breaks and 20-minute breaks when they're caring for grandma. And sometimes they're missing school because there's nobody else. And we don't quite know how it affected their lives. All we know, they were robbed of their childhood. So, yeah. Well, tell us, how did you become a caregiver? How old were you? How did it happen, and all that stuff?
I don't know how to do the math. I'm 53 now. It was 8 years ago, so whatever age that was is when I started. Caregiving for my mom after my father passed away. She was living on her own. She had a stroke, and she needed someone to take care of her after that. But she wanted to stay in her own apartment. So that was the hard part for me. Luckily, she recuperated pretty quickly. It only took a few months from the stroke, so she was on her own for a little while in the apartment, but nearby. But I still had to go back and forth a lot, and that was kind of hard, between my family and trying to help her out.
Were you in the same city, or were
Yeah,
you just
we
long
were
distance?
in the same area. It's about a 15-minute drive.
Okay.
So it wasn't too bad at the time. But yes, she was a very independent woman, and she wanted to just be on her own. So luckily, like I said, after the stroke, she recuperated pretty well. But then she started having other issues. So
How old did you say she was when she had the stroke?
it was 8 years ago, and she died last year at 91. So again, the math, I'm not sure exactly her age.
How long after your father died did she have the stroke?
It was a year after my father died.
Yeah, that's sad.
Yeah,
Did she care for him too? Was his illness
Yes, she was his
prolonged?
caregiver. She was his caregiver.
Mhm.
And he basically had a lot of strokes, and he had Alzheimer's, and it was hard. I would help her, but she was the main caregiver. In the last year of his life, actually the last 8 months, she had moved away, and my niece and my sister were near her. That didn't work so well for my dad because, Alzheimer's and dementia, they don't do well with change. So that just kind of made it worse. But at that point, during those 8 months, I was traveling a lot back and forth because it was a 4-hour drive. And but after he passed away, we convinced her to move back here. And that's when she said, only if I can live by myself in an apartment. And that's where it started.
Wow. So you are someone who decided to write a book. Tell me about that process of, okay, you're a caregiver, you're caring for your mother, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, did you think about writing the book while you were a caregiver, or was it after she had passed and you were no longer a caregiver?
It was probably the last year or two. I was on social media a lot, on Facebook a lot, kind of journaling the process, journaling about my mom. And instead of writing it down, I just kind of posted it on Facebook, all the stuff that was happening, and even the, stuff that the good and the bad, everything. It was kind of like just my diary almost. But the people, all my friends, started getting to know my mom that way. They started to get to know her and love her and appreciate her. Some of them even came to come visit her. And so once she was sick, and we knew because she ended up in hospice in my home. Once she was sick, people were like, you need to write a book. You need to write a book about this, mostly because I also wrote about the funny things she said. And that became kind of like people were looking forward to my posts at that point. And so that's why I decided, that's partially why I decided to write a book. I also, I wanted to get to know my great-grandparents, but by the time I started asking my mom, my dad, everybody forgot about, they didn't know much about so I thought, well, if somebody had written a book or at least a journal about them, then I would, know more about them. Right. So I thought, I'm going to do this for my future generations so they get to know her too. So that's the other reason.
Well, Adrienne and I are always big proponents of journaling because, go ahead, Adrienne, tell them why you like journaling.
Well, for me, it saved me writing things out, not having somebody to talk to every day. I was caring for two people, so it's not as though I could, go to one person and complain about the other or talk about the other in any way. Dump the way I was feeling on them.
That was your
And in journaling, I
your.
could say whatever I wanted.
And for those who don't know,
Just
that was
get
your
it out there.
that was your husband and your mother-in-law.
And my mother-in-law. At the
Wow.
same time, I was caring for
Wow.
two cancer patients. Yeah, it was fun.
Wow.
Yeah, and we just never know. Everyone I meet says, "Yeah, I'm going to write a book someday. Yeah, my story. Yeah, my life." And I haven't met a person alive who doesn't believe that their life is worth writing a book about. But how many? Well, we're not talking about you right now. How many actually write the book? Right? It's like 3% actually will write a book about their life or about something, and the others, there's this great book inside of them that just won't come out. And we tell caregivers, every caregiver's got a great story. Every caregiver needs to write a book. But how do you do it? Just journal. Just
Journal.
take that legal pad, that yellow legal pad or whatever, or your computer, and just say, "Dear diary, here's what happened today. I had to clean poop off the ceiling. Don't ask how it got up there." Or whatever. Right?
Yep.
So you're
Well,
journaling. When do you realize, or did you from the very beginning says, "I'm going to write a book, I'm going to start with journaling," or were you just journaling and says, "Oh my gosh, this is a book"? What was the process?
no, it wasn't until my friends started telling me you should write a book. Um,
Love those
the
friends, huh? You should write a book. Well,
You
did
really
you
no,
write
they
one?
kept, and I'm like, yeah, sure, but they kept going, no, you need to write a book, you need to write a book. And my husband, especially, was the driving force. He was the one who told me, this stuff is funny. You need to post this on Facebook. And I'm like, that wasn't
Okay.
funny. That wasn't funny. That was annoying and that was frustrating. And he's like, no, you have to put that on Facebook. And so when I put the first post. And the response I got from it, I'm like, yeah, you're right. It kind of is funny. You don't see it as funny when it's happening to you, but
Yeah.
everybody else can see it. So that's, I thought, okay. So
And by the
eventually
way,
I thought, okay, I am.
this is the best time to write a book ever in the history of mankind because it's so easy. You don't even need a major publisher. You can do self-publishing. You can do a book on demand. And you can do Facebook Live, for gosh sakes, In fact, my fourth book that I'm almost finished writing, it's in the editing version, all I did was transcribe over 100 videos that I did called 5 Minutes of Dave's Hammock Wisdom, because I have a lot of wisdom, people tell me, and I get it when I lay on my hammock. I solve the world's problems, my friends' problems. So, but a lot of people aren't on Facebook. A lot of people aren't on YouTube. So let's put it in a real print book form, and there you have it. So I'm kind of right because these videos are a form of journaling. Because journaling doesn't have to be writing; it can be video.
Absolutely.
And you've proven that. So kudos to you. And
Thanks.
it says Angelina. Is your name
Angelina.
Angie or Angelina? What do you want us to call you?
Well, everybody calls me Angie. My full name is Angelina. I put Angelina on the book just because that's what my mom called me. Angelina. She was from Cuba. It's
No, she's from Cuba.
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 Cubana.
So now you can get those
it-
Cuban cigars and smoke them without breaking the law. So,
Oh,
and the
No,
only other
I-
Angelina I know is Angelina Jolie.
yeah. Well, Angelina is. Everybody thinks it's an Italian name, but it's also a Hispanic name. But it just depends on how you pronounce it. So
Right.
Angelina in Italian or Angelina in Spanish. But because people didn't say Angelina, I'd said just call me Angie. So that's why
And if it
what I go
wasn't for
by.
I Love Lucy, people and the Cuban Missile Crisis, people would not even know where Cuba was because of Ricky Ricardo and his famous song. What was it called? La Bamba?
Babalu.
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 La Bamba. Yeah, they were genius. Okay, well, getting back to you, what are family isms? Have we spoken about
Okay,
that yet?
family. No, we haven't spoken about that. We start with Abuela-isms because that's what everybody loved so much about my post. Anything that my mother said that was funny, whether it was not so nice to me or not, if it was funny, it's an Abuela-ism, and I would post it and hashtag Abuela-ism. So that's what those are. And then family isms, my husband and my son, they don't know it, but they're hysterical. So they would. I decided to put.
I think they know it.
I would post stuff from them too, and familyism. So based on the response that I got from everybody, so that's what I put those in the book as well. Abuela-isms and family-isms, and that's the funny part of the book. So the book starts out with, getting real with my family and growing up, and both my mom and dad, because you can't talk about mom without talking about dad, and everything, from the beginning. And then it goes into the Abuela-isms, and then it goes into, caregiving and self-care and all the stuff that we went through at the end. But yeah, Abuela-isms and family-isms are the funny of the book. That's what kept,
oh my gosh,
kept us going.
You so need to become a stand-up comic because you've got all this material, and you need to take an improv class. I'm serious because this is the latest thing now, and I took an improv class, and my gosh, I could be a comedian, and I haven't done yet because I don't have the time. But I want to go, on one of those amateur nights at the comedy club or whatever.
Sure.
I could just see it. You would be the perfect stand-up comic. Have you ever considered that?
I have never considered that, but I certainly have enough material.
You do have enough material, but just take a class and say, hey, I've got some stories, and tell a few stories, and they will say the same thing I'm saying, because you may have a new career under your hands, because your whole thing is about humor, right? Humor and caregiving. And there are a couple of people, I think of Peter Rosenberger and another guy that he's with who do caregiver humor, like, you're a caregiver when, and it's like,
Right.
you have to buy a truckload of diapers or something like that. He does it much funnier than I do. Anyway, we're going to take a break. Don't go away, and we'll talk more about these funny isms and Abuela isms when we get back. So see you real soon. Don't change that channel.
One Arm, One Leg, 100 Words, Overcoming Unbelievable Hardships is about Charlene, a stroke survivor. Back in 1996, Charlene was a healthy, normal, very active 52-year-old woman whose amazing talents resemble that of both a Martha Stewart and a Wonder Woman. But all that changed when she suffered a massive stroke that left her severely speech impaired and paralyzed on the right side. Everyone who knows Charlene is thoroughly amazed at how she lives day by day, month by month, year by year, and with a smile on her face and hope in her heart that everything is going to be okay. Just hear what best-selling author Lynn Barrington has to say about it. If you think you have it bad, read this book. This is a beautiful, genuine story told from the heart. It's inspiring and easy to read. When you finish this book, you'll be able to look at your concerns in a new light. One Arm, One Leg, 100 Words, Overcoming Unbelievable Hardships. Available everywhere.
And we're back with Adrienne Gruberg and myself and our special guest, Angie, or Angelina Cyr. I'm going to do that every time I say your last name now. So we were talking about her new book, how through humor, I'll go ahead and say the title. I'm going to mess it up.
Coping with caregiving through humor.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm a terrible host. Coping with care. Got it. All right. So tell us, can you share some actual family isms from your book, and the Abuela isms as well? Because I want to laugh. Do you want to laugh, Adrienne?
Huh?
Do you want to laugh?
Do you want to laugh?
Oh, why not? Always.
I want to laugh, so let's laugh. Give me some. Hit me.
Okay. All right. So my mom was never afraid of death, and she was okay with it, and she was actually looking forward to getting together with my dad in heaven. So we were talking about, or she wanted to talk about the funeral arrangements and all that stuff. And so I said, some ideas. I said, well, she said she wanted to be cremated. I said, well, why don't we do one of those burials at sea? And she said, oh no, I can't do that. I said, why not? She goes, because I'm afraid of the water.
I thought you were going to say, I can't swim.
Yeah, I can't swim. I thought she was
Basically.
going to say, I
That's
can't
funnier.
swim.
We should
Yeah.
change that.
Basically, she said-
Don't let facts get in the way of a good story.
No, she
Yeah,
said,
no,
so
you
that
can't-
was her mentality. It's like, but Mom, you'll be dead, so it doesn't matter. So then she laughs afterwards, after the fact. So yeah,
Float.
she'll have. Yeah, she had one time we were listening to frogs outside, and she said, "Chewy, chewy." I said, "What are you doing?" She said, "I'm mimicking the frogs." I said, "Oh, that's funny. I hear them as ribbit, ribbit." And she said, "Oh, you must be hearing the American frogs." So just
Oh my gosh.
those
she's a
are
riot.
just some of the things that I can remember. There's a bunch of them in the book, and there's a bunch of familyisms too. But I don't have the book in front of me right now. I didn't even think to
Oh my
bring it,
gosh.
so otherwise I'd be reading through it. Also, my
So
son,
I don't
my
have
18-year-old son.
I don't have the title of your book in front of me, and you don't have your book in front of you. I guess we're equally
There you go.
No
matched here.
cover
Yes,
to
sir.
show.
Oh wait, I do. Wait, do
There
I?
you go.
I have it.
Mhm.
Oh, I have
Okay.
it here somewhere. Oh,
Well,
sorry.
you'll be better prepared
gonna
for
have
your
to take
At,
this
second.
at the commercial break, you can go get it.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll go get it at the commercial break. One thing I wanted to say was that my youngest son is 18, and he wanted to contribute to the book. So he's pretty good at drawing. So I said, why don't you do some sketches for the book? And so he drew 5 sketches of Abuela, my mom, who, by the way, her name was Emelina. So he drew some sketches for the book, and I added a few of the. It's like 5 sketches, and with each sketch, it's got its own page with an Abuela-ism on it, and it's just nice that it's my son contributed to the book.
Sure.
So that was really really sweet.
How old is your son?
He's 18 right now.
He's
Yeah.
18.
He's going to be
And
19 in August.
What's his
His
name?
name is
Let's-
William.
William. Let's make him famous. Is he an author
Yeah.
too? Is he encouraged by his mom's authorship?
No, he's an illustrator. I put him down as the illustrator.
Okay.
I put him down
Yeah.
as the illustrator, for the book.
He could probably, if you could do it, he could do it. I mean, it's
I'm
genetic.
sure he can. Anybody can write a book. All you need to do is just write it all down and then organize it. That's the hardest part, I think, of writing the book,
Yeah.
is organizing all your thoughts.
It's not an easy thing to do,
Yeah.
to edit and,
Well, that's why you
Right,
got to find all the retired school teacher friends that you have who have now become old maids and they're bored with life, but you say, hey, I heard that you are a pretty good editor. Can you find all the typos and grammatical errors and the punctuation marks in this? And then they have a new leasehold on life. Charlene has
I
an
got
aunt,
brave.
and I do that. You
Are
agree?
you assuming retired school teachers who edit are all women?
Are
Well,
you
I got to
school
tell
teachers
you,
too?
You said women.
Men too. I'm sorry. I temporarily lost.
I
my
got to
sanity.
tell you, the people who edited my book were 3 men.
Good.
Men editors. Imagine that.
Yes.
And I heard they have men
and myself,
school teachers
I got the
too.
last edit of. So
Really?
it took a lot. I mean, I just edited and edited. I mean, I guess that's what you have to do when you have a book. It's just
Oh yes, you have to read it 100 times,
Just-
and on the
yes.
101st
Oh.
time, you're still finding errors. And then
Yeah.
after you
You
send
know
it to
it
the
by heart,
publisher and
but-
it comes back, you still find errors. So I mean,
And-
it's
But after 100 times,
got-
you know it by heart.
after
well, you
100
get to
times,
the
I'm
point
sick
where
of
you
it.
just have to.
I'm sick of it.
You get to the point where you just say,
Oh,
"That's it."
the heck
You
with
just
it.
have to say, "This
just
is going to
do
be
it,
the last
you know.
one.
And
This is
the
going to be the
time
last
comes when
one."
you have-
Otherwise,
You must hand it off to somebody else because you've had your eyes on it
exactly.
for
Yeah.
so many, for so long.
And I said all that screw it after 25 times, but then I said, oh no, let me try it one more time. And then I was going to, and then one more time. And then next thing you know, you're at number 100 because you just can't let let go of this baby it's not ready to give birth to, or you can't eat that cake because it's still yucky in the oven, and so you're forced. Well, I got nothing else better to do. Let me read it again, and you still find errors, and then after a while you just realize that you can't let this thing go in an imperfect state. But then you realize that it's perfect enough. I know it's not perfect, but it's perfect enough. Get it out of here. I'm tired. You're in your 9th month of labor, and says, "Get this thing out of me," and you give birth, and then you can go live your life again. It's But you don't even have to write anymore. You can dictate. I know a guy who just dictates his books, and then he gives it to somebody, and they fix all the errors, because there are lots of errors when we dictate our books.
Sure.
Dictate anything, dictate our texts and what have you. So is that kind of what you did? And what was the process of you writing? Convince us how easy it is to write a book.
Well, I actually enjoy journaling. So to me, I just, like I said, I posted it on Facebook, and then I had to go back from 2011 on to 2018 and bring them all in one by one, year by year, bring them all in so I could put them into a document. And then from there, I said, I'm going to elaborate on the story, go back and think about it. And then I started to take each post and just kind of made it a story. What's the story behind this small post?
Yeah, I had to do that
and
with
that's
my videos too, because they were, what you say in real life through the mouth sometimes needs a little tweaking when you're putting it on paper.
Right.
I say a lot, and so it's not necessary to put all the knows in the in the printed version.
I actually left. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, and don't lose that thought, that I don't want you to think that I hated writing a book. It was fun, and I enjoyed it. You ask any mother who's giving birth, oh yes, I'm so glad this baby was born. But there are moments when you are pregnant, and there are moments when you're writing a book that you're just sick of it, But generally, it was a great experience. So I don't want you to think that it
did it
labored.
More than once.
Say it again.
You did it more than once.
That's true. I mean, if it wasn't fun, I wouldn't have done it 4 times. Okay, go ahead. Hope I didn't lose your
Well, no, you didn't. So with the posts, it was like you said, it's not like what you speak. It's just kind of so this. And so I left it the way it is. The post, the Abuela-isms and the family-ism, I left it. I didn't really edit it. So the rest of my book is written, edited. But those, I just said, please, don't touch those. Those have to be genuine. That's the way they were written.
Right.
And those I left. But the rest of the book, I ended up, doing the edits. But
is the rest of the book sort of a memoir? Because
yes,
you said you went
it is
back.
a memoir.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I started, with my mom and dad, and my mom and cooking. There's a lot of stuff about cooking in there, and she hated my cooking. She hated my cooking. She was such a wonderful cook. So, and I had to learn, because for her it just came naturally. She would just do things, and she'd throw all the ingredients in, and I can't even copy a recipe correctly. So it was hard. Because also the doctor had given me a diet for her to follow, and she was like, nope, not doing that. And so it was, that was the most difficult part, I think. It was the food stuff, but also the personalities, because we're totally different personalities. And it was really challenging. And the fact that she was always in control. She was the one in control. She was the wise one. Everybody went to her. And all of a sudden, it's just, I'm the one in charge of her life. And it was daunting. It was, I was not prepared for that. And she was resenting that. Yeah. So she would lash out. And that was hard, because I wasn't very patient.
Did she ever?
Right now,
No, go ahead.
Yes.
I can wait. Go ahead.
My friends are like, "Oh, you're such a saint. You have so much patience." I'm like,
no, right. Say that about me too.
No. no, it's not the case. I mean, I would, we would like get into these fights, and it was hard to, to just go through the whole process of, trying to, because she was so independent and she lost it. She lost her independence, and now I understood. Well, I didn't understand at the time. I understand now the fact that she lost her independence, and it's really hard for her. Yeah, it's very frustrating for someone when they lose their independence and now somebody else is in charge of you. But I had my family, I had my husband, I had all these things going on, and then I had her. So I was kind of hoping she would be a little nicer.
Appreciate what you do.
Yes, appreciate. But it didn't. My family would say when she talks to us, she appreciates you. She talks so well of you. I'm like, why doesn't she say it to me? Because at the moment she's frustrated and she had to throw it at us. So you
only hurt the ones you love, the ones you shouldn't hurt at all.
Yeah.
And you were there. You were close.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. It's because we were so close. Yeah, we were so close, and apparently I could take it because I didn't think I could, but yep. And I'm not in a loony farm, so.
So I know she had a stroke. What were her symptoms that made her lose her independence, and how quickly after the stroke did that happen?
Actually, the stroke actually recovered very well. They called it a medium stroke, but it almost killed her. Yeah. But then she had
or blood clot.
It was a blood clot, and they got it quickly. They did some sort of process through. Yeah, they got through it, and they dissolved it, I guess.
Yeah.
But
so then what happened?
So she, for the 2 months after that, she was she couldn't walk well, she couldn't speak well, she was very confused, the speaking part was hard. But little by little, it's like she fought it. She says, she even said, I'm going to get better. And she just, eventually, everything was fine with the stroke part. But she had lung issues and she had heart issues. That's what was slowing her down. And the fact that she refuses to eat well probably made things worse. She couldn't have, especially salty foods. That's why she thought my food was crap food, because I couldn't put salt in it. The doctor's like, no salt! And she's like, she even told me one time that my food looked like cat vomit. That was one of the Abuela-isms. That was one of the Abuela-isms. She's like, this looks like cat vomit. I said, just taste it. She's like, it looks like cat vomit. I said, what does cat vomit even taste? I mean, how do you know what cat vomit? I said, just taste it. She's like, okay, fine, I'll taste it. And she eats it, and she goes, it doesn't taste like cat vomit. But I'm like, well, it's like, why? The way she's phrased everything, it wasn't fun for me. But it was funny, so I posted it, and everybody else got a laugh. And once everybody laughed about it,
at the time, were you?
Right. I wasn't laughing until everybody else laughed at it, because it was almost like I'm like, is this really funny or not? So let me post it and find out. And then I post it, and I go, okay, that was funny. That was funny.
Succumbing to peer pressure, huh?
That was funny. My friends were like, are you kidding, dude? That was so funny. You just, she's just so fun. So they just kept waiting for the next one. But, it was, it was a process. I mean, the whole thing, it was 8 years. 8 total. Oh. 3 years she lived on her own for 3 years, and then the other 5 years she lived with us. And then the last, 6 months she was in hospice, but here at home, so I was still here. So the nurses would come three times a week. The bathers would come. Well, nurses would come twice a week. Bathers would come 3 times a week, and then so they gave me a little respite, But it was still, especially when she started getting into the dementia, and she was always a very anxious. Anxiety was the big thing for her. We couldn't let her watch the news because she would think whatever was happening to the news was happening to her family. One time she called
was it dementia?
My husband.
Was it a form of dementia?
It was dementia towards the end, like the last year or so. So one time she actually called my husband, and he answered the phone, and she's like, "Are you okay?" He's like, "I'm fine." They don't even understand each other, but she tried to speak to him, and he understood she was trying to find out if he was okay. And he said, "Yeah, I'm okay." And so he called me, and I ran into her room. Why did you call him? She said, because it was on the news that there's this big flooding. And she went on. And I said, Mom, that's in Texas. We live in California. That's not happening. But she wasn't, all there. So that was just stuff like that. But her anxiety got so bad that I couldn't, I felt like I couldn't go out. Even when somebody came over and said, "Hey, I'll watch her for you," I felt like I couldn't go out because my mom would be freaking out. Where is she? Where is she? What's going on? And she'd start thinking, something terrible is happening to me. So I got to the point where I just stayed home. I couldn't. I was like, I can't. She freaks out. By the time I got home, she was just a mess. So it's like, no, I can't do that. She did have anxiety meds, but it didn't help a lot. It made her sleepy, and I'd have to hide it when we needed her to take it because she wouldn't. She was afraid that if she took her anxiety meds, she would not be able. She would be too groggy to get up and walk out if there was an earthquake or something.
Okay.
This is the type of stuff. This is the type of stuff that she felt.
She's fearful.
So there was
too.
a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety. So I had to just stay home instead of, being able to escape. So had to come up with other ways. And
What were those other ways?
Oh,
if you can't, if your respite isn't outside, what did you do?
Oh, okay. Well, I have a little spot in my backyard that I call my happy place.
Okay.
So when my mother was resting or when she was watching her little TV shows, I would take a deep breath and go out in my happy place and just rest and look out into nature. And just that was one of the things. Also, I learned some self-care. Actually, Dave was one of one of my references that I went to. I saw him on one of my friends posted something from his Facebook page. And then so I started following Dave. And I started like, okay, this is good. Okay, somebody else is going through this, or And then I have a friend who is into yoga, and so she helped me by helping me learn to meditate. And one of my friends said, you need to, what is it that you love to do? And I said, well, I like to journal, I like to do crafts. And she said, do that whenever you get a chance. Just sit down and just craft or paint or do something. And those things that I could do from home. And so those were just some of the things that I was able to do. And of course, every once in a while, I could go and do a mani-pedi, and that was fun. That always felt good.
Well, listen, on that note, let's take another break, and we will be right back.
Go get your book.
Angie Cyr. Yes, go get your book, and you can read some. And we'll be right back. Don't go away.
Okay. All right, thanks.
We are a community of caregivers that understands and supports you wherever you are in your journey. We are a place to connect with other caregivers, but more importantly, a place to get practical, actionable help. There are lots of ways for you to get support. First of all, you can download our welcome pack. This will get you started on your Thrive journey. Next, you can ask and get answers to your questions by posting them here in our private Facebook groups. You can also get live online support by attending one of our live weekly Connect webinars. You can get practical, actionable advice by listening to our weekly podcast. You can hear and read other stories about other caregivers' experiences. Plus, add your own in our weekly Share Your Story forum, posted every Tuesday in the Facebook group. You can access essential resources and download practical Thrive Solutions packs, all of which are geared to help you thrive as a caregiver. You get lifetime access to all of our resources. Again, we're here to support you and help you thrive and to enjoy your life as a caregiver. And remember, this is a place to get hope, not just cope.
And we're back with Adrienne Gruberg and me, Dave Nassani, on the Caregiver Dave Show, and our wonderful guest, Angelina Cyr, best-selling author. And if it hasn't happened yet, it will. So, and I guess I'm in your book, right? You put something.
Oh
about,
yes,
yeah,
yes.
so let's talk about me. I'm kidding, I'm
I
kidding.
have a resource. I actually have a section called Grief, Love, and Hope, and Help and Self-Care. And at the back, I actually added your website and a couple of other people that had actually helped with that I used as resources, because I think it's important that caregivers do use resources for self-care, because you need to.
Yeah.
My mom was in the belief that, you take care of your family and it's just all of them and you don't do anything for yourself. So when I said I wanted to go somewhere, she was like, what are you talking about? You need to stay home with your children,
Yeah.
And so that's how I, thought, and until, my resources came along, and then I realized I need to do this because otherwise I'm going to go insane.
So how did you empower yourself
have my
with her?
book.
How did you push
Good
back?
for you.
I got the book. How did I
How did you push back when she would do that? Now that you were wise and
Okay,
enlightened?
it really wasn't until like the last year. That's
better late than
when
never.
And I basically just sat her down and I said, Mom, I need to do this. I know you don't understand. I told her, I know you don't understand because things were different with you, but I need this. When I sat down with her, she understood. I think she felt bad. Well, I know she felt bad. She kept telling everybody that she felt bad for me because I don't get to do anything and she's a burden and all this stuff.
She saw the light.
So she does do that. She told everybody else but me. So I knew that what she was feeling. She hated dogs, and she even encouraged me to get a dog, even though I knew that she didn't like them. And it turned out to be the best thing ever because she fell in love with the dog.
And
so
she's saying all this in her demented state?
This was before, like the last year. She'd go in and out of the dementia part. I know the last 6 months, it got pretty bad. But before that, it's like you can see it's coming, but it's not quite there yet. So she was still in between. So that's when, but I just sat her down and I talked to her and I said, I need this. And she would say, okay, I will try.
Oh,
but
you're
she
lucky
tried.
Because not all of them are like that,
She tried, but it still didn't work because her anxiety would kick in. So, But she did try. But I do have my book with me if you want me to read you some of the Abuela isms. All right. So let me see which one. Okay, here's one that I thought it made me laugh. Okay, so the way I posted it was I post hubby. Hubby says, I fixed the vacuum cleaner. Abuela, giggling with glee, whispers in my ear, he didn't fix the vacuum. The cleaning lady did. That was one of the things. Let's see. Abuela, did you bring anything back from your church event? Me. Cheesecake. Would you like some? Okay, but remove the cheese. I will just have the cake part. She'll have,
And she knew what she was saying, right? She just knew she was being funny.
She wasn't. She didn't know she was being funny. That's the funny
she's a Gracie
part.
Allen kind of a person.
There you go.
My mother
was
like that.
Yes, she was a Gracie. I don't know if the younger generation knows who Gracie Allen was.
Well, Edith from All in the Family, or let's get a little younger, Rose from the Golden Girls.
Yes.
My mother was all three rolled into one.
Yes, she was
so
that.
It's very hard when they get dementia to know that they have dementia because they act like that all the time.
Yes.
She was at the end. She was at the end, but at the beginning she wasn't. She was very in control, and but towards the end, yes, she definitely got ditzy. But the book also has a little bit of some photographs that I had posted on Facebook, and it's filled with a little bit of everything. There's this section that's called embarrassing moments, and it's mostly embarrassing for me, just things that she would do that were funny later on. I could read one. May I read one?
You may.
Okay, this one's called Costco Confusion. When I
I like
took
it
Mama
already.
when I took Mama on an outing to Costco when she was in her late 80s, she saw a Hispanic man looking at a very expensive refrigerator. She looked at me and told me to watch my purse. She said that this man can't afford that refrigerator and it's only looking at it to distract us while he grabs our handbags and runs. Looking at her in shock, I told her that if he truly is Hispanic, he can understand everything she was saying because we speak Spanish too. She said, "Good! Then he knows we're on to him." I quickly led her out of the store without looking into the man's face, but I am certain I heard him chuckling.
I love her.
So that's the type of stuff that's in here, and there's just a bunch
How
of
can
stuff.
you get frustrated with such a wonderful
I know,
person in her, right?
I know, right? I mean, you know what? At the end, I realized not only how wonderful she really was, but the fact that I always fought it and said I'm not like her. But little by little, I started realizing I am a lot like her. So I did, yeah. So it's like writing the book helped me cope. It's almost like it gave me closure to complete the book. I actually, my goal was to complete it way earlier, but it took me a year once I gathered all the information because I had to put it down because I got so emotional about it. It was, I was having a really hard time, especially like 8 months after she died is when I really just lost it. I think at the beginning I was trying to just say, okay, she was 91, she had a good life, and you know, I'm okay. I grieved a little bit, and I'm done. And I was kind of hiding it, but I had to really. You got to the point where you need to let it go. You need to grieve through it, and so I had to finish. So I said, okay, my next goal is to finish the book, not just finish it, but publish it by the death of her anniversary. So that I have good memories of the day she died. It's not the day she died. It's the day my book went up on Amazon. So that's what I want to remember. You want to remember good things. I know that a lot of people's like, oh, that's the anniversary of my dad's death. And sad thoughts. I don't want sad thoughts. I want to remember her fondly. I want happy memories. So that's what I did. And that's what pushed me. I think that was the biggest push. It's like her anniversary is coming up. And I need to finish this, and I need to publish it. That's what pushed me. I got to the point where I told my family, I'm not doing any chores. I'm not cleaning house. I'm not doing dishes. You're all in charge because I have to concentrate on my book.
Yeah.
And I, you know, well, of course, once I finish the book, the house still isn't clean. That was March 18th.
Well, that's why I went to Hawaii for 4 weeks to finish my book, to start my book, actually.
Poor thing.
Yeah.
I tried to go away to finish on my own. I tried to do it, just go away, but where I wrote best was here at home.
Okay.
So that's why I had to come back and just finish it and just tell everybody, no distractions, I'm just going to finish this.
It's one of the few places my wife will actually go with me because it has to be fun and beautiful, or she won't go.
Yeah.
Like she won't go to Des Moines, Iowa. No offense, Des Moines. But I got her because when I was there, the New York City Ballet was in town. And so I drove to the university to see it, and I told her, and she goes, no, you can't go there without me. I said, well, honey, you had the opportunity to come to boring Des Moines, but you said no, and so I got her back. Anyway, it's. I think we've got about 3 minutes left. What can you leave us with that you haven't already told us? And I think the message here is, number one, it's an amazing book, and I am looking forward to reading it, because you sent it to me, and I just scanned it, but now I'm going to read it, and I will send you my critiques, and I'll even send a review on Amazon, because we all like those, don't we?
Yes.
And the second thing is to encourage other caregivers. I think your message to caregivers is journal, because number one, it'll save your sanity. It may keep you from dying, because 30% of caregivers die before their loved ones do, and the rest of them become sicker, hospitalized, need a caregiver of their own. This just might keep you out of the hospital and keep you out of the morgue, just by picking up a pen and writing your thoughts, Get it out. Because if it's in, it's going to cause cancer and ulcers and all sorts of bad things. So get it out. Or I heard one speaker say he brought a little flush thing on a toilet. He says, just flush.
Flush.
So, go ahead. It's your turn. Yeah, you can use that.
Yes. Journaling. That's one of the things, I actually put it in my book, that I hope that what people get out of this book is for them to either journal. You can post it on social media. You can write it down. You can put it in a document. You can write it in a if you prefer, on a little journal.
You can dictate also.
You can dictate it however you want to do it, but get those memories up, because you're going to want to read back these things later on. It took me a while to go back, but once through the grieving process, it helps to have your memories. Your future generations are going to want to read your memories. So this is really important. The other thing that I wanted people to know is self-care is so important. A lot of people are like, oh, I don't have time for myself. You need to make time, because you can't be at your best and help your loved one if you're a wreck. So you really need to find ways to self-care. And like I said, I put 3 references in the back of the book on where to, search for caregiver help. And Dave's is one of them. So
I hope mine is one of them.
I didn't know about yours.
Yes.
When I wrote the book, I did not know about yours.
Adrienne has been a big influence on me, because she started way before I did. And so I'm just trying to, catch up to her, and when I grow up, I want to be just like her. So
yay!
We appreciate you coming on the show. How can someone get a hold of you or the book?
How can we read your blog? And
I actually have. I don't have a blog, but I do have a Facebook page that I did send you the link on.
Okay.
It's on the form there. So. Basically Facebook, and my book is on Amazon, only on Amazon. I don't have it anywhere else. But it's also in Kindle format, and if you go to the Kindle page, you can read the first 2 chapters.
Well, if you ever want to go on a book tour and go on television and speak on stages, I'll tell you how I did it. So other people have said that they've given $10,000 to a publicist and they didn't get 1/10 of the results that I've been getting. So I've been on 25 morning shows all across the country, but you'd have to travel, of course.
I know. I've seen you. I kind of like my job. I like my job. I think I'll stick around. Yes, I'll stay put. But thank you.
All right.
Thanks so much for having me.
And Adrienne, how do we get a hold of you?
Does my name appear on the screen?
It just says Adrienne.
Adrienne.
Does it spell properly?
Let me see. Adrienne. That is correct.
Good. So I don't have to say it every week. It's Adrienne.
You should put the last name, then you won't have to say your last name either.
No, it's Adrienne at the Caregiver space.org.
Yep.
And the website's thecaregiverspace.org. Yep. And you can get to the Facebook page and every place else, Instagram and.
Yes.
And
but unfortunately, Adrienne, I have bad news for you.
What?
That for all of the audio broadcasts that cannot see you or your name and the way it's spelled, you will still have to spell it.
Well, you just spelled it for me, so.
Yes. Okay. So you're covered this week. So, and I'm Caregiver Dave, caregiverdave.com, and that's our one-stop shopping, folks. You can go there and get 3 free gifts. You get my first book absolutely free about overcoming unbelievable hardships. You get this quiz on are you a candidate for burnout, just in case you don't know if you are or not, which I can't imagine. And the third one is I give you this audio soundtrack of how to relax, because a lot of people, a lot of caregivers have insomnia. They can't get to sleep, and they're looking at the clock. It's midnight. It's 1 a.m. It's 2 a.m. It's 3 a.m. Their eyes are wide open. This could help you sleep and fall asleep and stay asleep. So caregiverdave.com, and we are just so grateful for every one of you, and thankful that Angie has been following me. Sometimes you just never know who's following you, and here we have someone who's an author who wrote about me, and And I pray, I put my blessings over the book, and may it just sell 1 million copies. And God bless everybody, and thanks for coming on, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Caregivers Caregiver radio program with Dave Nasani.